Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. And keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as, investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. Alright folks, here we are on Sunday, December 24th. We're going to take a look at RKLB today. So RKLB having a huge day on Friday, up over 22%. We're just going to be looking at the chart, none of the other catalysts or anything like that. So this is hopefully early warning in case you want to jump out. But it's getting near in on some really interesting levels. So obviously we have all these resistance levels in. Now it was all the way down here. And then on this jump up, it sort of immediately established over this 502 level, probably more just like a psychological $5 level. We see it's put in sort of similar-ish, though not quite as strong action in the recent past. Pushed through this 536, though by the time closing came, it was drawing back down toward it, right? Maybe as sort of a retest or what have you. Certainly it was a reaction to trying to stretch through this 571 and just not having the juice to sustain over that level. So, I mean, not surprising. It's a huge move in one day. You know, I'm not going to beat it up for not being able to get through 3 resistance levels in one day. I guess more than that if you include this one down here, which it sort of just jumped. But what stood out to me was we have this purple gap on the chart, right? There's this old price gap this day when it fell down over 12%, left this gap from about 583 to about 603. And it came just a few pennies shy of trying to get into that gap. So my question now is, you know, if it is coming down on Friday, this is speculation of course, but if it is coming down to try to retest that 536 level, you know, maybe it gets all the way down there, maybe it doesn't need to come all the way down and it finds support around 540 or something like that, and then pushes back up early next week, then, you know, does it get into that gap? Does it maybe even fill that gap? And if so, then, you know, where does it go from there? I have some levels sort of high above there. We could put in some additional levels if folks are interested, you know, in some obvious ranges in between that 603 and that 751. But it had me quite intrigued to know what sort of like the drawdown on Friday, what that was going to produce. Again, because it was drawing down so close back to that 536 level. So, you know, we'll obviously know when things start to take shape next week. Now, the other thing that I would just mention is because of this big jump up, it did now leave a gap to the downside. So if it does start to fall down in the near term or, you know, even further down the line and gets close to the $5 range, then I would just be a little aware that there's now this gap that it would get into at about 594, and it wouldn't fill it until it fell down to about 454. So just keeping that in mind now, as it's sort of surrounded by gaps, basically, to the upside and the downside. Now, could it just sort of persist and kind of try to work out all of that crazy volatility that it's been experiencing lately and just put in some, you know, some sideways motion to just sort of like chill a little bit and collect itself before its next move? Yeah, for sure. Right, we see a little bit of that here in this range here, right? Though that still is a pretty big range. But, you know, with some of these more volatile stocks, they're sort of condensing period where they're consolidating the price action still is within a really big percentage range. So it's not that uncommon to see. Now on the think or swim side of things, we see on that last push, that big push up to 8, was up out of the channel, came down, retested the mid-range, couldn't hold it, and then just kind of got trapped between the bottom bound of the channel and the mid-range, which obviously continued to push it down further. Now we had this trigger and fire on the TTM squeeze indicator. So this is always, to me, the most interesting setup. Triggering, especially a lengthy trigger like this, while it's pinning itself to the mid-range of a channel, the channel's starting to you know, condense a little bit because the volatility has died down, you know, relatively speaking, and then it fires, and then we see, you know, here comes the fire, bang, bang. So we immediately get like really volatile moves both up and down, and then obviously that huge move up on Friday. So the question becomes like, where's the real move here on this lengthy trigger, triggering in sort of, air quotes, the right spot as the price action's in the mid-range of the channel, and then when it fires, where's the real move, right? Because oftentimes there's sort of a counter move, and then the real move kind of takes off and just sort of like captures the flag, if you will. So I'm sort of wondering, because it had sort of a big push up, immediately pull back down, and now another big push up, which is pushing higher, right? So it's more impressive, for sure. It gives sort of the appearance that that could be, the move, but we'll have to sort of wait and see. The histogram had it dying down back to the baseline here, and then obviously a big, strong bullish momentum stick getting put in on Friday. So keeping an eye on it, but you see, in sort of more mundane stocks, I guess we could say, this would be a pretty wide channel, but you see immediately on RKLB, because it's pretty volatile stock, you see this channel just immediately stretch out in both directions, right? And it just gets really, really wide really quickly. And so, relative to this stock, this was sort of like a compressing of that channel a bit, allowing for, an explosive action to come at some point. And we'll see if this is that point and where it wants to go. But yeah, it's interesting to me that it is now gapped to the upside and gapped to the downside. And where is it going to go? Or is it going to sort of take the road less traveled and kind of just put itself in between those two for a while? We'll see. All right, folks, I hope that you have a nice long weekend. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.